the goal of telling a good story? That's the first question I want you to think about in this little nutshell workshop we're going to whiz through. Now I want you to think about this for a moment because it's very important to you as a filmmaker or storyteller. So what is the goal of telling a good story? And this story could be a book, a short story, a comic book, a video game, any kind of story. Because you know, films are just expensive stories when you think about it. They're just really nicely done stories. Most people say the goal of making a great film is to make money or entertain people. While these things are important, it is not the primary goal of a storyteller. The primary goal of any story is to evoke a strong series of emotional responses from the audience throughout the entire film. Ideally, you want your audience to be laughing out loud, gasping in surprise, recoiling in terror, worrying about the characters, or jumping out of their seats. These reactions are harder to get than you might imagine. If you've ever tried to write a script or you've made a film before, you may understand the challenge of that. So how do you connect with people emotionally in the audience in this way? Because you have to have a very strong connection with them emotionally to get these types of responses. You do this by telling the truth emotionally based on your own experiences and insights about life. We will be taking an inventory of these experiences as we go through the steps in the 20-hour workshop. We don't have time to do it in this one, but we really get a sense of who you are, what you know, what you've been through, and how you can cannibalize those ideas for a story. And when I say telling the truth emotionally, have you ever watched a film where you really identified with the characters and everything they did seemed really emotionally real? It felt like you were just watching people actually having real experiences, versus films you've seen when it just seemed kind of fake and plastic, and it just you didn't care about the characters, didn't seem real, you didn't care about them, and there was just not that real emotional connection. So I'm going to push you to head that way in your storytelling, because that's how you're really going to hook your audience. 7 basic goals of telling a great story. The first one we already talked about is to evoke a strong series of emotional responses from the people in the audience. You want them to feel as if they've been on a complete emotional ride after seeing your film or reading your story. They've laughed or cried, they've been worried, afraid, relieved. They've gone through this whole spectrum of emotions. The next thing you want to focus on is to create a strong feeling of suspense in the story. Now this is getting more and more important as you look at shows like 24 or some of the new action films today. If you watch an action film from even 5 or 10 years ago, it's a lot slower and there's not as much suspense, where modern audiences these days are becoming kind of suspense junkies. They need a lot of suspense in their stories or else it feels slow. So in the 20-hour workshop, we go over 200 ways to create suspense in the story, and it really is a key element in writing stories. It's almost like pulling shoelaces on a shoe, and it just tightens everything up and makes everything kind of pop better when you start weaving in these suspense techniques. The next thing you really want to do is to gain new insights about life from the story. So people watching your film or reading your story are going to learn a lot of things, and it needs to be something they're kind of interested in and insights that make sense to them that they relate to, once again, emotionally. People also like good stories that have them be inspired by the characters' noble actions and possibly find a new role model to base their lives on in some way. Have you ever seen a film and afterwards you wanted to be more like that character, and you found something in them that you can draw on, like that's kind of your hero now or your role model in a way? And people like to see that in films, so you want to think about creating characters like that that inspire people. Another thing you want to focus on is giving them new information about relevant ideas, and this is a little bit different than insights, where insights are more truths you've discovered in life. But new relevant ideas could be the subject matter you're dealing with, or the setting, or anything that's happening, kind of an issue in the film that's something that's people are concerned about today. And the last goal of telling a great story is to make money, get a job, or win awards. You should have a goal when you're doing a big project like telling a story in a novel or making a film, because there's going to be times when you're not going to want to work on it. It's just going to be too overwhelming. So you need to have one of those goals to kind of pull you through those tough times when it just seems like too much work. So I encourage you to choose a visualization moment or get really clear on why you're writing the novel or doing the screenplay or making the film. Like, do you want to win an Academy Award, or do you want to get a job, or do you want to make millions of dollars on a really successful idea? Think back to a film you saw recently that you really liked. Why did you like it? So think about it. Why did you really like that last film you saw that sticks out in your mind? You probably related to the characters in some way or found the subject matter interesting. Do you remember how you felt when watching this film? Were you able to see some part of your own life that you could relate to on the screen? So this is that emotional connection we were talking about before. People like characters that they relate to. Even if the character's completely different than them, they're going through something emotionally that people can grab onto. Keep these things in mind as you develop your own story next. People like stories where they relate to the main characters, find the subject matter interesting, and feel lots of different strong emotions while going through the story.